How are we going, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. This is a bit of an overdue one and something a bit different to this channel. I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite films. This is an overdue one as well. I said I was going to do this to celebrate 600 subscribers. I'm meant to be doing my all-time favourite album to celebrate 500 subscribers, but I'll get round to it, I promise you. But yeah, I thought I'm just as much into films, really, arguably as much as I'm into music. Probably I keep up to date on what's going on musically more than I do with films, but I like talking about it in just as much detail and all the rest of it. And I'm going to be doing a film podcast going forward, but it's going to be on a different channel. And we're going to be talking about horror films and different themes and whatnot. But when that does happen, I'll put up a little video and I'll have a link to the description. It's going to be on Odyssey. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it though. And going forward as well, let me know in the comments if like a film review. I don't really like film reviews. It's, that's really good, and I'll give it 8 out of 10. I prefer doing like a deep dive on a film and talking about it in depth and talking about what this means and what does that sort of signify and all the rest of it. But yeah, I thought I'd tell you about it. And this isn't like my top 10 or anything like that. Well, it's probably in my top favourite films. So the first films that came to mind when I talk about my favourite films, I just sort of jotted a list down and went, well, they're the ones I thought of first. And I put it on a post-it note up on the wall, and it's like, well, I'll either add to it or take it away, and nothing's actually changed on that post-it note. So I guess this is my 6 favourite films, but I could add to it. So this isn't like definitive in any way, but I thought, well, I've got to cut it off somewhere, and this is just like a little introduction video. With that being said, I've not put them in order either, because I think I've got about 6 films to show you here, and they're all very different films, so you can't really go this one's better than that one, because they're very different films coming from different places, made in different ways. So here we go anyway. Right, this one is a bit of an honourable mention. This is Leon. This was one of my favourite film for ages, or one of my favourite films for ages. I always loved this film. And just the way it was directed, it was just so smooth. The soundtrack, the look of the film, and the action's really good in it. Gary Oldman's brilliant in it, and I love the relationship between Leon and Matilda. I always thought it was like a heartwarming relationship, like would become a father and daughter relationship, and it was all well and good until I saw the director's cut. And there's been certain things about this film that people have said and I've debated about, and I've gone, you're all mad. But then I watched the director's cut and I watched some commentary, and now I know certain things about Hollywood and the world, and I'm not sure what I feel about this film anymore. So I might have to have a rewatch and see what I think then. But it was a film that I liked for a long time, so I thought I'd throw that one in there just because it was, as I was getting these DVDs, I saw it and thought, oh yeah, and it jogged my memory. So this is the real stuff now. Right, where shall I start? Let's start with a good, right. So this is a British comedy. This is With Now and I, starring Richard E. Grant and Paul McGann. Paul McGann, from Alien 3, and he was Doctor Who for 5 minutes. This is just a phenomenal film. I know this film inside and out. I could quote the script here. It's full of one-liners. It's a film that, if ever there was a film that rewards repeated listens, I'm in music review mode now. Repeated watches, it's this film. And once you get over the comedy aspect of the film, it's just the depth of it and what it really represents and shows. And I think there's stuff in this film that the writer and director Bruce Robinson didn't intend to be there, but it is there. It's it's heartwarming and melancholy at the same time. It's just quintessential, it's just so English to watch. It's just, it's got that melancholy English feel to it that I don't think could be captured anywhere else. It drives me mad that this is made for like £1 million, and the utter waste they put out on films nowadays, when I think they could have, some films got 50 million spent on it and it could have made 50 of these. That's probably an insight into my wider opinion about films as a whole. I do tend to go for more independent films or sort of art house films. You wouldn't know that with these favourite. That's probably my preference today, because the stuff that the mainstream makes now is just utter shit. But yeah, this is just one of my all-time favourite films, and again, on the surface you've got the comedy aspect of it, but underneath there's a heartfelt truth to be told in this about the friendship between Withnail and Withnail and I is the mate. What's his name is Marwood, and Bruce Dickinson, Richard E. Grant. It's because Bruce Robinson directed it. I'll go Bruce Dickinson. I mean, I think there's a real sadness to it, because I think if anyone that's been, maybe in like the acting world or the music world, hanging about with musicians, I think we've all known a Withnail in our time, and the real heartbreaking ending to the film. There's a truth to it that there's nothing sadder in life than wasted talent. And I could go in. All of these films I could talk about for hours. So I'll best not start rambling. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. But yeah, Withnail and I is an absolutely phenomenal film. I absolutely love it and can watch it again and again. And with that theme of there's nothing sadder than wasted talent, I might as well talk about this next film, because that's an actual saying from this film. I know I have got this film on DVD and I cannot find it anywhere. And I know if I order another copy, as soon as I hit order, confirm, I'm going to find it. I know I'm going to find it as soon as I order a new copy. But I do have the soundtrack, so I'm going to show you the soundtrack for this. But this is A Bronx Tale. As far as I'm aware, the only film directed by Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro is in it, but he's not really he's more of a secondary character. It's not like he just does cameos. Bronx Tale is a phenomenal film again. I mean, if you want to call it a gangster film, I think it's one of the underrated ones. What's the guy's name? Chaz. I know I read the name, but I've never said it out loud. So here we go. Chaz Palminteri, I think that is. Probably butchered that. So you've got Robert De Niro, his son, Collateral, and he witnesses a murder and or a hit, and keeps his mouth shut, and therefore the gangster, played by Chaz Palminteri, befriends the kid, and the kid thinks he's cool. Obviously, it's kind of got that Goodfellas as far as I want it. As far as I go back, I always wanted to be a gangster. And he starts hanging about in a bar, and he starts getting tips. He loves it, and then as he grows up, he goes to idolise this gangster, which rubs his father up the wrong way. His father's an honest man and a hard-working man. He's a bus driver, and he's trying to keep his kid on the straight and narrow, while his kid's tempted by all the stuff with the gangster life, and the gangster develops like a bit of a father and son relationship with him. He wants to guide him on the straight, and he wants to guide him on a good path as well, but he's got a different way of going about it, and there's a tension between the gangster and the dad, and there's the film's got loads of these small stories going through it as well. There's loads of little scenes that could just be clipped, and it would be like a little mini film in itself, like with the bikers going to the bar, for example, or when Collateral grows up and he starts dating a black girl from the other side of the Bronx, and that's a no-no in the Italian side of the Bronx, and you've got that whole theme with it as well. And yeah, it's a tale of a boy growing up, getting wisdom from different people, and he has to take from one and take from another in order to navigate the confusing world that he's growing up in. And it's odd, it's strange, because I first saw the film quite young, so I probably would have been seeing it through Collateral's eyes, and now I'm seeing it through the father's eyes. So it becomes two different films as I've grown up. And yeah, the soundtrack is to die for. It's one of the best soundtracks ever, to the point where I ended up buying a copy of it. Perfect mix of like 60s crooner songs and, you know, soul music, and, you know, you got the Moody Blues as well, and Jimi Hendrix, so there's rock in there as well. So yeah, sort of 60s, 70s period music. But yeah, fantastic film. And again, one of those films that just never gets old. And right, we're going to get more into the Nightmare Cabin theme of things now. Horror. For Evil Dead 2. You know why. I love the Evil Dead series. I love Ash, the character. But this is the one for me. I think this is the perfect mix of where Evil Dead started and then where the Evil Dead franchise went on to go. Obviously with Army of Darkness, and then it carries on in the series and the games, etc. But this one, it's just, the porridge is just right with this one. It's the perfect mixture of gore, horror, and comedy. And I think it's probably the best paced film as well. It's obviously this is the one where Ash gets the chainsaw hand and, you know, groovy and all that. But yeah, a great mixture of like practical effects, slapstick humour, good gore. I don't know why I think that poster's terrible. There's so many good posters and front covers, but this is the edition I got when DVDs first came out, and I just could never be bothered to buy it again. And maybe if there was a decent box set at some point, I'll get it again. But I've never felt the need. All the extras are there. The picture's fine. I don't need 4K. That's another thing I can't be bothered with. But yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun. It just works. I put it on and it just plays itself, and it's a film I return to again and again. Because yeah, it's just a great horror come comedy. Speaking of horror, I suppose there's a bit of science fiction in this as well. Yeah, The Thing. John Carpenter's masterpiece. Again, I could do a podcast. I don't like saying podcast because I don't do podcasts. I make fucking videos, but I don't know why I keep saying it. I could do a series on John Carpenter. I love all of his films. But this is the one that sticks with me. Of course, I love Escape from New York. I love Big Trouble in Little China. I love Precinct on Assault on Precinct 14. I love Halloween. I love it all. But there's just something special about this film. Again, it's a film I can go to again and again and again. I think it's got a perfect ending. This is the only, I think, no, all three. This and the next three films. I didn't actually do this in order, but it's kind of worked out in an order. This and these next two films I think might be the only films I've had on video, I've bought on DVD, and then I've bought again on Blu-ray. That's not Hellraiser, actually, I've done that with as well. I forgot Hellraiser. But again, this is the thing, I could go on. I could have done a top 10, but then it would have been a top 20, could have gone forever. Maybe I'll do a part 2 of this at some point. If you want a part 2, let me know. But yeah, anyway, let's get into the thing. Practical effects. I love practical effects. I can't stand CGI. CGI is good as icing, as a sprinkling of sugar. CGI is a finishing touch. No more. These Marvel films now, they're filming in front of a green screen with all these things patched to them, and that's all CGI. And modern films now suck because of it. These films aren't films, they are sugar rushes. And that's my rant. But yeah, The Thing. Let's get into The Thing. It's just a brilliantly paced thriller, really, about... again, I didn't really learned to appreciate H.P. Lovecraft until the last couple of years, funnily enough. So I didn't realise how Lovecraftian this is. It's a cosmic horror, as they say. Kurt Russell is cool in every film he's in. But this one was also... It's something about this film is just always different. It was just always different to other films I watched growing up. First time I saw it, when the dog, you know, reveals itself as the creature and its face just opens, I made my mate turn it off. I was like covering my eyes. It was like, I can't watch that. I was horrified, and it took me years to like pucker up the courage to watch it again. But again, the dynamic of the film, the way it's paced, the banter and the rapport between the guys. I mean, there's you know, some of the funniest stuff is in this as well. You know, the stoner guy and, hey, I'll take you. No, you won't. Hey, thanks for thinking about it, though. You know, or when they're talking about the aliens and that, it happens all the time, man. They're falling out of the skies like flies. They practically run. Forget the area it is, but they never quite figure it out. And it was always a frustration for me that we never quite knew what this alien was, or what made it tick, what its motives was, and it dawned on me later on that you don't need to know. It doesn't matter. It's different to us. That's all there is to it. And I like the fact that it's left a bit open, and it's open to interpretation. And I just love the way it's just left at the end. I mean, I'm saying about spoilers. If you ain't seen any of these films by now, that's your fault. But I don't worry about spoilers. If a film's more than 2 weeks old, that's it. But let's just say, no need to be a dick about it though, is there, Joe? Let's just say the ending is perfect. It's just, there you go. And there's never been a sequel. And I hope there won't be one. I hope. Leave it as it is. I did have a couple of comics where they continued it. Yeah, maybe. And do you know what? That prequel come remake. Oh, there's a real good channel called Good Bad Flicks, and I didn't like that film. I don't like that film, but I watched a show. Good Bad Flicks, a fantastic YouTube channel where they go into the depth behind the scenes of films, and I'm more sympathetic to the prequel. Now I know the intention of the director. It seems that the studio got involved and messed that film up, and what the guy wanted to do compared to what actually came out, it was a world apart. So I do have a bit more sympathy for that film. I don't quite dislike it as much as I used to, but that's not much of a defence. But yeah, I mean, the special effects are unparalleled today, I find. The scenes, the action scenes in it, or the horror scenes are just brilliant. And it's a film that just, I can put it on and I just love it. And again, even now, there's stuff about it, there's details I notice that I'm still noticing now, and I can still see it from different angles even now. And the fact that it more or less tanked John Carpenter's career at the time, and now it's gone on to be known as like his masterpiece. I think again, it's just brilliant. But yeah, The Thing, absolutely adore it. I think if you was going to ask me what my all-time favourite film is, I think it does narrow it down between these two. So, what one shall I... Oh, so you already see it. Right, that's fine then. The Exorcist. Again, I absolutely adore this film. I remember on a holiday in Isle of Wight, we went to this horror museum, like this wax museum. And we, you go through different graveyards and you see vampires and Frankenstein and all that. Think like the London Dungeon or something like that, but it was all horror. I remember going to this part and there was a priest with a crucifix with a girl with her back to us. and this like scene played out, and there was like this voice coming through the thing, and then the girl's head spins round and looks at us, and I remember just thinking, what the fuck was that all about? And my mum said, oh yeah, that's exorcism, and there was a film called The Exorcist, and it was banned, and it's still banned today because it was so scary. So when I was growing up, The Exorcist had this mystique about it because I grew up with the video nasties. I mean, it must have happened before I came along, but I grew up hearing about these films that were banned, and I saw the reissue of them. Zombie Flesh Eaters, for example. That's another one of my favourites. Could have included that. I got that on Blu-ray, I think, but I didn't get it on DVD. But I did have it on video. Yeah, I didn't include a zombie film, did I? Evil Dead isn't really a zombie film. If I was going to say a zombie film, Zombie Flesh Eaters is my favourite. Here you go, in case you were wondering. But again, I could easily do a two-part of this. Where was I? So Exorcist. And I remember it being reissued, like re-released. I think I first saw it, though. A friend of school had it on pirate. And I can't remember if that was before... Yeah, I saw that before it was re-released. Like, the ban was lifted. And, so, yeah, now, my generation sort of... I think we felt a bit let down because we kept hearing about this petrifying film that we all... this legendary film. And then when it finally came out and we finally saw it, I think a lot of people sort of just dismissed it and went, that ain't scary. But I think it depends on your worldview and how you see things, whether you're going to find it scary or not. I think in this edition of the film, William who directed it? William Peter Blatty wrote the book, didn't he? But who directed it? William Friedkin. He says you take away from this film what you bring to it. But I remember going to the local cinema, and friends I was with were like, we're going to go see The Exorcist. I was like, you're not going to see The Exorcist. None of us are 18. There's no way they're going to let us in. They're like, oh, I'll just tell them I'm 18. I'll just say my birthday's this day. Yeah, all right, that's going to happen. And I remember getting to this cinema thinking, we are going to look like utter idiots. And they're not listening to me. They're going to try it anyway. But when I got there, you look up to the menu above the till. So you go to the till and you buy your tickets up front. Now you do it all online. So you had like this box office at the front with all the films at the top with all the timings and that. And when we got there, it had The Exorcist, and there was easily about 12 or 15 viewings all the times, and it was just sold out. It was all completely sold out. I've never seen that since going to a cinema, just seeing all the viewings of the film and completely sold out. So I remember thinking that was really cool, and kind of relieved that my mates were going to be like, oh well, we can't see now because it's all sold out. So it made them, saved them making fools of themselves and me being embarrassed because I wasn't going to try it. But anyway, so I think what's most important about Exorcist as well is that I think you do need to see both cuts. Don't just jump straight into the director's cut, but don't leave it to the theatrical cut either. I do think you need both because you do sort of see a vision by stuff that's missing from the director's cut. You appreciate it more, but I do think the theatrical cut's got a slightly different ending as well. I think you do need to see both. But it's a film that I see there's so many layers to it, and I see so much more every time I watch it over the years. Obviously, with my views changing and obviously growing up as well, because I was in school when I first watched it, and it wasn't that long ago when I last watched it, and it's like, this film is it's a masterpiece. It's an absolute masterpiece. From even now, there's missing details, things that the demon says, the way the demon manipulates people, the way the characters are. The Mark Commode said, Mark Commode speaks about the film extensively, and he says about it's not so much about the girl that's possessed, it's about everyone around her. It's about the whole science versus religion argument. I don't think there is an argument. I think they coincide quite well, but it's there nonetheless. The way that the secular world views things and the way the religious world views things, and it's funny because the mum, who represents the secular world, she's the one that's begging for the exorcism to take place, and yet the priests in the religious world are saying, "What do you need that for?" Like, it's taking the secular person to convince the religious person that an exorcism needs to take place, because she exhausts every other option. She tries the scans, she tries the doctors, she tries the operations, she tries the psychology, the psychological route, and there's just nothing left, and it just leaves it there. William Friedkin's placing it there, like, there are some things you can't explain, and that's that. There's no worming your way out of that argument. I think it's just a brilliant story as well, with Father Karras, the way he's losing his faith, and he has to find his faith in order to save the girl. I think that's there's a crucial scene in the director's cut which was cut out, and William Friedkin cut it out because he thought it was obvious, it didn't need stating, but it is stated by the exorcist why the demon is doing what it's doing. Why has it taken a little girl? And it all just makes the more I watch it, the more it makes sense, and the way, again, it's directed and paced, it just works perfectly. I don't even acknowledge that new film that's come out this year. I don't really acknowledge any of the sequels apart from Exorcist 3. Exorcist 3, I think, is a real underrated film, and it's got a lot going for it. That's another one as well. It's recently come out with its director's cut as well. It was released on Blu-ray, and you get both. I think I prefer the theatrical cut the way it was, to be honest, but the director's cut's worth watching at least. But yeah, Exorcist 3 is really good, but any of the other sequels I don't acknowledge, and I certainly won't be acknowledging that piece of crap that came out last year. But yeah, what more can I say about Exorcist going forward? Even the poster's amazing. Just looking at that now, it's one of the best posters ever. I saw it in the cinema a year or two ago as well, when it was like an anniversary screening. Again, the books, documentaries, commentaries, I never get sick of this film. Yeah, and I think I could talk for hours and hours about this. I think it's brilliant, and I never get tired of watching it. So yeah, on to the next one, or the last but not least, I suppose. Yeah, it's a toss-up, I think, between these two. Exorcist as my all-time favourite films. Exorcist and The Godfather. I've got the box set. I mean, 1 and 2 you pretty much need. I don't know what something's got on the cover of this, and I'm scratching away at it, and I think me scratching it is causing more damage. Never mind. But yeah. Do you know what? I actually warm to Godfather 3 as I'm getting older. I don't know if that's because standards of films has dropped so much that, like, this is a masterpiece compared to what they're putting out now. I don't know if standards of films have dropped so much that even Godfather 3 is looking good now, or I don't know. There's still faults with the film, but there's stuff in the film that's like, yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking where they're going with it, but they don't quite go far enough with it. But I'll tell you what I need to do. Francis Ford Coppola recently. He recently put out like I don't know what he did. Tried tidying it up, like a recut of the film, and it's just called the Death of Michael Corleone. So I've not watched that. Maybe I should. But, Godfather 2 is brilliant. Don't get me wrong. And my wife, I think that's one of the eternal arguments. Do you prefer Godfather 1 or 2? In a perfect world, it would be just one long film. In fact, they did edit it that way, didn't they, once? Didn't some TV channel edit it so it was one long film? so they put it all in order. Again, nothing wrong with Godfather 2. I absolutely love it. If Godfather's 10 out of 10, for me, Godfather 2 is 9.8 out of 10. My wife actually prefers Godfather 2, and a lot of people I know that love Godfather do prefer Godfather 2. I just prefer Godfather 1 because I like the team in it. I like the gang. I like the sitting around where they're eating the Chinese and they're eating, you know, and they're in the little, in their hotels. I like, you know, is it Clemenza, the guy that makes the gun for Michael, and he's showing him how to make spaghetti, and I just like the characters in Godfather 1 better. I just warm to them better. But again, another film, it's a masterpiece from beginning to end, from the opening shot to the closing. It's just perfect. It just, again, so many layers to it. I just listened to a 5-part series. They're like an hour long. I'm currently on part 4. I've got to listen. So I'm three episodes in with Jay Dyer going on the Quite Frankly podcast, and they're analysing the book. I've read the book as well. You're doing yourself a disservice if you've watched The Godfather and you've not read the book, because as far as conversion from page to film, it's pretty much, yeah, it's one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. But there's just so much detail, backgrounds to characters, little things, little nuances that are just there on screen are explained in the book. For example, when Michael goes out to Sicily when he's running away, and he couples up with Apollonia and he ends up marrying her and that. There's a bit where she falls. So she's walking in front of the family and she falls. And he catches her and picks her up. She does that on purpose. You're not going to see that in the film. You just see it happen. In the book, he explains why she does that on purpose, and he explains why. You hear the background of Luca Brasi, for example. So, yeah, definitely read the book if you haven't seen the film. But what's so good about The Godfather for me? I mean, you know, gangster films are great. I love Goodfellas and Casino and, you know, all the usual suspects as much as the next person. But The Godfather sort of transcends that. It goes above it. And what I think is so great about The Godfather is that although it's set in a mafia setting, it could be set anywhere. It could be about a bakery. Doesn't matter. It could be set in the Roman Empire days. It could be set in samurai. Whatever. This story works no matter what setting or period you put it in. And it's about heritage. It's about, you know, father passing down something to his son that he knows, and his sons aren't who he is, and inevitably they can't be. So you've got a father with 3 sons, and he's gone from the bottom to the top building an empire, and his sons have all got different talents and qualities of his, but none of them have got all of them. So, and it's a story of that. So one son is hot-headed. Sonny is hot-headed, but he's strong and he's dominant, but he's not got the calmness of Fredo, for example. Fredo's not quite as he's not quite the character he is in the film, in the books, but you know, that part isn't in the book. That gets written into Godfather 2. But and there's the way of the way Michael obviously doesn't want to be part of the family. He doesn't want to be in the family business for such. He joins the army. But so he's resisting it as much as he can until he basically accepts his fate, because what goes on with the family, it becomes a mess that only him stepping in can clean up. So when he goes to do the hit in the restaurant, that plan couldn't have worked unless he did it. They're all, you know, scratching their heads trying to come up with a way of getting out of this bind, and it's only by him stepping up that they can move forward. And from that, he ends up accepting his role, accepting his fate, and that fate goes on, you know, the corruption that comes with it. It's like a Shakespeare play, and And again, there's just so many different things that go on in the film, and so many characters, so many little stories going through. But yeah, again, it's a film. It's just perfect, and I can watch it again and again and again. This and The Exorcist. And again, how can I compare The Exorcist to Godfather? How can I compare this to Evil Dead or With No One Eye? They're all fantastic films in their own right. All fantastic films made in their own right as well. And yeah, I'm trying to think of something maybe to say at the end here, but yeah, no, that's pretty much it off the top of my head anyway. But yeah, like I say, what makes Godfather special about and so much, I think, above gangster films is that it could be set in any period. It doesn't have to be necessarily set in the mafia. And yeah, it's just a great film about the passing of time, I think, because the character of Don Corleone, he's from a world that doesn't exist anymore, and he sees that world, the new world coming in, taking over his world, and as much as he tries to resist it, it's just inevitable. And that's kind of where, when they say, you know, it's not personal, it's just business, when they're trying to kill him and get rid of him, it's just the world moving on. The world can't function with people like him in it anymore, for better, for worse. And I think that's a big theme about The Godfather as well. Could be Long Good Friday as well, another one of my favourites. For different reasons, actually. I think they're very different films, but I think that overall theme is still in there. But yeah, and Francis Ford Coppola, I think, is one of the best film directors ever, and I think this is part of his golden period. You know, you had The Godfather 1 and 2. You had The Conversation with Hugh Jackman. Not Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman. Superman, French Connection. What's his name? I've got to look it up now. Anyway, The Conversation with the guy that plays Lex Luthor in the Superman films. He was in The French Connection. Oh, the name's doing my head in. It'll come to me, don't it? Yeah, anyway, so The Conversation, Godfather 1 and 2, and Apocalypse Now. And then he got into debt, and he fell on hard times. He ended up having to do a load of independent films. But I think there's a lot of hidden gems in there. Also, he did, you know, the Dracula. Really good adaptation of that. Although it shouldn't really have been called Bram Stoker's Dracula. It should have been called Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. But I've got to look this guy's name up now. It's doing my head in. Connection. Hugh Jackman. Gene Hackman. Hugh Jackman. Gene Hackman. There you go. I'm getting my names all muddled up. So, yeah. Godfather and Exorcist is a match about that as my all-time favourite films ever. But yeah, I love The Thing, Evil Dead 2, and With No One Eye, and A Bronx Tale. They're some of my favourite films. Let me know in the comments. Do you want me to do a part 2? Do you want me to do a show solely based on one of these films and I'll go to do a deep dive? Do you want me to do more film reviews going forward? And yeah, let me know. This is your channel as much as it is mine. And I do want a part 2 of this. Do you want to know more about what I think about films? Is what I said. Has it tickled your fancy? Has it intrigued you? Does it make you want, oh, well, if he thinks this about this, I wonder what he thinks about that film or something like that? Give me your comments and your questions below. Like I say, thank you. This is a celebration of 600 subscribers. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate the fact that you watch me and subscribe to me and want to know, you know, what I think about certain films and not films, but albums and whatnot. The fact that you watch my stuff at all and you feel it worthy to subscribe to watch more really means a lot. So the all-time favourite album is coming up as well. And yeah, let me know some of your favourite films as well. Let me you know, get a conversation going. And thanks as always for watching. And I hope you enjoyed this. It's something a bit different for the channel. And yeah, I'll speak to you all soon. Take care. Thanks a lot. Cheers.